she a rebel. That's going on the Cowboy playlist for sure.
She a devil.
Devil.
Ooh,
And
she a devil. No.
She a bad little bitch. She a rebel? Ooh,
she a devil. Yeah.
She a bad little bitch. She a rebel. Right?
If we're wrong, that's going to be so embarrassing. Because I'm pretty sure like everyone on planet Earth knows that song. So
I would hope so. And if you don't,
it's a
Doja Cat.
It's a good song.
It's a solid song. And it's going to be on our Cowboy playlist.
Yeah.
Coming out June 2024.
Keep out on Spotify for it.
And everyone's really excited. Event of the year.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hi, from different sides of the couch.
Yeah, you're sitting on literally the opposite end, or is it me?
I feel so far.
There's
we're
not
both sitting on different ends.
I can do. Ooh, yeah. I'm barefoot. In case you were hoping for some feet today.
And these slippers that I have on are indeed house slippers.
Yeah, there's like a hot debate in the comments right now. There's a whole two of you.
But we also do wear shoes on the couch when we podcast.
Only when we podcast. I think that people are getting really
not
riled
in regular
up about
life.
No, this is something because like it was such a thing about the feet that we were like, okay, also it completes the outfit.
Yes, I do like a good completed outfit. Like I only used to wear shoes in the house. I don't do that anymore, but I used to because I wanted to complete the fit.
Which was, I'm like, Madison, this was like at the time when it was just her and I at the house. And I'm like,
who is that for? And I'm like, it is for me. It is for me.
You know what though? I got to commend you because you are someone who really does get like dressed and ready. Like Madison, early in the morning, she comes out and she's ready to go. Like I'm someone
I am
who
ready for the day.
You know, like I look like I'm going to be in the house all day. Like Madison looks like if we had an earthquake, she'd be ready. You know, like
you
if
just
you
never
had to
know
leave,
what's going to happen.
No, I know.
Yeah.
And I'm inspired by that. And the mornings where the mornings where I do get ready before I come out, I feel way better. I don't know why I don't do it more often.
I mean, I do know why people wouldn't do that. It is because it takes work.
It's just cozy.
And it also like does take work for me to go and do that in the morning but then I don't have to do it later in the day. So it's like, it's just over and done with. Yeah.
As you can tell, we're in like a really, we're in a casual mood today.
We're in a casual mood, but I would dare to say chatty. Like it's very all over the place. My mind is in 1,000 different directions. Like Tess was saying before we hit record, is that she couldn't put herself in one box. Like one topic like we did last week is just, it's not the move today.
It's not going to happen.
So it's going to be a million topics or three. I don't know.
I went to write down stuff on a piece of paper to sit down and talk to you, and I couldn't. I did 2 different sheets of paper. I got halfway through and I was like, no,
yes,
we're done. We're not doing that today. So I'm excited that you do have one because that actually grounds me.
You didn't bring any notes?
No, I'm ready to go.
Oh, okay. Thank God. Because I was like, my notes are just
double-sided.
Okay. It looks like, no. They are double-sided, but it's because this is also from last week. But reading through them, it's like, is this worth mentioning this week? And potentially not.
Okay.
Also, I'm like still learning how to sit on this side of the couch.
This side feels way better. Madison has the upper hand podcasting for sure.
Well, maybe I do. Yeah, I don't really like this side.
We're going to get a new couch at some point.
Oh, okay.
You know, I would love a new couch like tomorrow if I could. Yeah, so if anybody wants to buy us a new couch.
Okay.
We are open for it.
Yeah, that would be sick.
Why don't you walk us through what...
Okay,
well, at least start us off.
Okay, well, so I think like this episode is mostly going to be like I wrote down as like life musings. Like it's just like things that which I think we do episodes like this a lot, like things that we just like recognize through experience. And I think like sharing them, hopefully it creates recognition within listeners. And that's what makes it fun.
Okay, let's
okay, well, I did want to start off with what you were talking about though, because I feel like that is a good segue into everything else.
Okay, so Madison posted on Cowboys Instagram stories like a few days ago this quote that she saw probably on Tumblr, right?
Yeah, for sure.
I don't remember the exact quote, but it was something along the lines of the importance of going after what you want in life, because the fear of failure isn't like that really shouldn't hold you back, and we can dive into that further, but also like your dreams and your future like really does depend on it, is what I gathered from it. Like, just get out of your own way, right? And then we were watching Alone. That's our new fixation show.
Which is like Side note is we have like the weirdest string of shows that we've been watching. Like they aren't in one genre. Like what is it? Greatest?
The Great British Baking
Yeah,
Show.
that. Okay, we were hooked on that. Then we watched The Gentleman, great show. Now it's Alone, and I feel like we just need to be like stimulated by something that is so otherworldly, and that's what we can do at night. And it cannot be a movie because more than an hour and 10 minutes is just not the vibe during the weekday. So it's Alone.
It's Alone. And so something one of the contestants on Alone said last night was, you learn by living, because she essentially made a mistake, which I like to reframe as a misstep, because I don't know, like I just don't, I think the word mistake is a little too harsh, and it feels like you can't learn from a mistake, or you can't come back from one. Like,
yeah,
oh,
like we're not allowed to be like wrong anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
So she made a misstep, and she was like, well, I mean, I guess, hey, now I know. And she left the quote of just, you learn by living. And I thought that was something that really stuck with me, because maybe I've recently, like as I discussed last week, like there has been an instance, or I guess multiple, where like I've made people upset by my actions. And when you make a misstep like that, it can feel so final. It can feel so intense. And what I'm really reflecting on is, it's okay if a misstep happens, but it's not okay to not reflect on it. And like, that's the key, is being able to reflect on something and growing from it is like the most valuable part of the whole experience. And I think what I look for in people is how evolved they are based on self-reflection. That's something that really intrigues me with people. It attracts me to people, is like I measure success not only in monetary ways, right? Oh, can we drive nice cars? Can we afford the things we want? Not that. It's how deep the person is with themselves, and how they're willing to look at themselves and look at, you know, their behaviors or their choices that they make, and what are they going to do with it. And so I just kind of had this little self-talk with myself when I heard that, was like, I'm learning by living. Like, me making this choice might not have been the best choice at the time, but I'm learning and I've grown from it. And so look at that. And when we talk to, like, we were in a deep conversation with someone the other day where it seems like it's a pattern where they're not evolving.
Right.
And they're like, this is not us making this judgment. Like, they're the first ones to
They're
say
fully
it.
aware. Yes.
Yeah. And it's like, it just makes you think, like, where's like the missing link here?
Like, as to why they're not taking the next step and leveling up.
Yeah. Like why is it not getting from point A to point B? Like, okay, so we've done the recognition, but why not change the action?
That's cognitive dissonance, isn't it?
Well, Madison, I'd have to look that baby up. Thanks for putting me on the spot.
Well, no, I think that it is. I need to also look up the definition, but that was like a big thing in our communication degree.
Yeah,
it's
I remember
like where
it.
I don't know if it's where you think one thing and you do another, but it's like there's some divide between those two concepts.
Okay.
So potentially, yes, I think that might be
Potentially.
cognitive dissonance. I don't know, but I mean, the only answer that I have to that as to why that might happen is just like fear of the unknown, and like fear of like what that process will look like for them to level up. So then they just don't even take the action step to get to it.
Okay.
Which is obviously very natural.
Yeah. Well, and then I was thinking, like, in moments where I felt like, I don't know if I want, like, maybe I'm not even really aware of myself not taking the action, right? But what I'm trying to say is, anytime that I've taken action in the step of the direction that I'm hoping to go, that's when I feel most aligned with myself. So then if there is a fear of failure, which to me, how do I describe like a fear of failure? Is it looking stupid? Is it wasting money or time?
Yeah,
Maybe
like what
a
are we
combination?
actually afraid of? And
Yeah.
I think like even that's good that you brought that up, because I think that voicing or writing it down, telling a friend, whatever your like mode of communicating that is, like to your inner self of like, what are you fearful of? That really is helpful, because sometimes when you say things out loud or voice it to another person, you're just like, oh, I'm afraid of other people thinking that I look dumb or I'm uncool. And it's like, okay, is that actually a valid reason?
And would they actually even think that?
Right.
You know, you can just go down so many paths with that. But okay, so if that's like, if my fears are getting in the way of me making an aligned action because I know it's best for me and my future, then that's something to really look at. But anyways, it brings me back to that quote of you learn by living, right? So you have to make choices or you get to make choices. And sometimes those choices teach you bigger lessons than others. But ultimately, if you're reflecting and you are making steps towards being the person that you really want to be, then I think that's ultimately what matters. And if you can own where you're at and then go from there, that's the cherry on top.
Yeah, I would agree. So this is actually perfect. Absolutely. Yes. Everything you said. I think that's really important. And I'm glad that we started with that, because this brings me to something that I wrote down here the other day is comparison. Cause we talk about comparison a lot. Like
yeah,
that's just a natural
I deal
thing
with all the time.
Yes. Okay. So then I was thinking, what if we challenge like what comparison means to us? So like typically it's like, oh, comparing ourselves is negative, but I think it's only negative when you compare yourself and then you judge yourself for what you're comparing yourself to. So I think comparison, which is like a lot of the books that I'm reading, and I think a lot of psychological texts in general would say that comparison is just a part of human nature, and then it actually can be very healthy for us because it gives you perspective on where you are at. And for me personally, I feel like, and I'll give an example after this, but it gives me like a perspective of like the shadows or things that I keep hidden that I do not address. And then when I compare myself to another, I'm like, oh, wait, whoa, I should really look at that. Like if I'm having these triggering emotions towards this, which me and my cousin were talking about this, that she calls it below the line. Like if you feel like you're below the line, that instead of triggering, because I was like, what's another word for triggering? Because it's just like, that is actually the word, because it's such a good descriptor, you know? But sometimes it's just like, I just don't want to use that. So like when something hits you below the line, okay. So something that happened the other day is that we were on a walk, you, me, and Phil, and you know this, and we were like voicing our feelings, what we were thinking about. And in that moment, like I did not say, like Phil was like, oh, well, what's on your mind? Or maybe Tess asked it, I don't remember. And I didn't say, I was like, well, I'm just going through my own stuff and I don't really want to say this out loud right now. And it was because we were talking about Tess and like we were trying to figure out something that's going on in her life, and I didn't want to make it about me. So I was like, I'll just go through it and like journal on it later. And then when I've come to some conclusion, or if I want to talk about it, I'll say it tomorrow, because like this is Tess's moment. So,
which I just like hearing that, you're just like, no,
I know. And then of course I write my journal later. I'm like, if I can hold space for other people, like how do I expect, like, how can I not expect others to hold space for me? Like, especially my loved ones. That's just another issue that I have.
Not to like derail your thought here. Are you
it
good?
Won't. I'm good. Okay. It's solidified.
Okay. Sometimes like when the conversation is about you, and I'm sure you guys can relate to this too, you don't want it to be about you. Like, I'm like, I don't actually like want to go any further into what I've got going on. Like, I'm done dissecting. Thank you everybody for your contribution and your energy and holding space for it. Can we please move on? So sometimes it would be nice, please and thank you.
Yeah.
Put your stuff in the pot. So it's not just like, oh, here's the test too, you know?
Yeah, I get that. I think that, and then that in itself is just like a learning lesson for me to be like, well, is it okay if we twist this conversation in my direction now,
please.
You know? Yeah. So I think it's just the communicating that.
But I get why you don't, maybe, because if someone is constantly taking the baton out or like the mic.
Yeah. I just don't want to be, well, I also like don't want to be selfish, and I don't want to downplay what you're going through by switching it onto what I'm dealing with. Like I wanted to make sure that like our thoughts were complete on what you were dealing with before we even turned to me.
I can appreciate that, but I think that as we know, there are always going to be multiple stories, lifelines, everything. We all are going parallel. So like I'm going to have my highs and lows on my path. You're going to have yours on yours. Philip's going to have his on his. We're just talking about the three of us because we live together.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to bounce between the three at all times, because that's just like our little community and what we have to do.
Well, then I also can say that I think it's worth sharing like saying to my past self, and like if I do this in the future, that it is also worth sharing, because we find recognition like through our experiences. So like I could have shared something that would have helped you made your decision. So it's like, can't, like your thing may not have happened in isolation. Like maybe what I had to contribute would have been worth it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yes. Okay, back
We
to your
learned
thought,
from that
though.
anyway. So yes, the comparison thing. So in that moment when I didn't share what I was thinking about, is that in my mind, I started to compare myself. All right. So I was just rereading this journal entry. So it's like fresh in my mind. I was on day 2 of my period. So veil is lifted. There's no hiding from any bullshit. So I came back from yoga. I didn't have a good yoga class because I was just in my head and it was not good. So then we're talking about Tess's life and like, you know, I'm walking with her and Phil. And so in my head, I'm thinking, okay, so Tess is moving up in her career. Tess is getting married. And what am I doing? So this is me comparing in my head. And so like that is a natural comparison because like obviously we live together and our lives are very different. So like I see that comparison for what it is, and that's not bad because we're on different paths. But then if I start to judge myself for not having those same things that Tess has, that's where it becomes negative and not positive. Like obviously not. Comparison can be beneficial in the way of like, okay, that brought light to, well, yeah, I'm not getting married right now, and that's okay. That's just not on my path.
But
My
it's
career
pointing
is in a
to-
different, it's going in a different direction. I'm on another path completely. So why do I need to feel negative about me if I'm comparing it myself to you?
I mean, we've talked about this too, of like when something is happening in someone's life, I don't know if this, I don't want to make it like, what I'm trying to say is I don't know if it's appropriate to bring up that conversation in alignment with this because it's not what you're saying, but it does bring up that thought of if someone is having something in their life, then it's important that we are able to accept and celebrate it for them without being critical on ourselves.
Yes.
Right.
And yeah, and that's also why I didn't bring it up in that moment on our walk, because I'm like, well, this is not about me. And like, it doesn't, like me comparing myself and yeah, so me comparing myself doesn't mean that I'm not happy for the people I'm comparing myself to, you know, like I still have unconditional love and I could not be any happier, but then it is a natural reflection, I think, to compare myself to things that aren't happening in my life. Because it's just like, well, how can I gauge where I am? Like it gives me another perspective into what's going on.
Yeah. And I think what I can add to that is when you find yourself comparing, use that as a tool then, right? Okay, if that brings up these feelings in me, then that points me in the direction of what I actually want. Like if I feel, okay, if we can spin the narrative a little bit, if I feel envious or I don't want to use the word jealous, but like, okay, if I feel envious that Madison gets to go to yoga every day and her body feels amazing and like she's getting so strong, but I don't prioritize that in my own life, or I'm not there at this time, then like, how am I getting, like, why is it worth comparing myself? Like, and getting judgmental towards myself. I could instead use Madison doing her as a boost of motivation to be like,
Right.
I'm so excited that Madison is like lighting this path for me. Like that shows me that I too want to be that involved with my body on a consistent basis.
Yeah, I think that it is really important when you're like feeling those triggering feelings to sort of switch the narrative and understand why you're feeling triggered or emotional about something and flip the script and be like, okay, well, what is the other side of the coin here? Like I'm judging myself for not being married yet, or I don't know. And then the other side would be like, well, but you enjoy your singlehood and you're figuring yourself out and you're like getting closer to self. So that's why I was saying that it brings light to the shadows, like comparison in general. And yeah, that's basically,
I think it's a very important conversation. I'm glad you brought it up. And I think
because
it's
like,
easy to compare for big things like, oh, you know, Tess is getting married. Like that's such a, I was saying to someone, I'm like, that's such a balk. I was saying to Philip, I was like, yeah, getting married to you is so exciting for me. But it's crazy to be here because, you know, when you're little, you have this list of things that you think you're going to hit in your life. And to be checking off one of those boxes is such a, I'm like, whoa, I'm just like, it's crazy that I'm here because I remember not being here at all. And so we were talking about the feelings that get brought up because of that. But I don't even know where I was going with that other than, oh, it's easy to compare like big life moments because I think we all have that ingrained in us of like, those are things that we're going to hit. And then you have this pressure of this timeline because our biological clock and everyone else is getting married.
Yeah.
And you know, you just keep going.
That's what I was writing in my journal, is because like I have these differing, which I've talked about on the podcast before, but like these differing beliefs like within me. And I do think contrast is very helpful. So I'm happy to shed light on both of these within myself. But the thing is, I was writing down like you are moving forward in a traditional sense. And like I have always favored tradition, although I have never been traditional. Like I have been untraditional in most of the things in my life. So then I wrote like the bigger picture here is that I just need to accept that I live an untraditional life. And if those quote unquote traditions enter my life and those rituals that we all live by, that will be fucking great. But if it doesn't, like I'm still on my path and I'm confident with where I'm going. And that's great.
Okay. Love it. And I think like I'm always, and you know this about me, and if you guys are longtime listeners, you've probably gotten this too, is like I'm someone who will crack myself wide open so everyone can see the flaws, so that no one feels like, you know, oh, Tess has got it going on or she's boastful. Like I always try to scale back. And what I'm getting at here is I had no way of seeing this element in my life coming. You asked me a year ago, there's no way I would have said, yeah, Philip and I are getting married in 2024. Like, there's just no way.
I know.
And so what I mean by that is like, I've in the past 4 years have been in some fucked up places in this realm, right? Relationship wise, it hasn't been fun.
Yeah.
And lots of highs and lows. And so I'm like, you never know what is right around the corner. And I just hope that you can use that as a little bit of hope of like, dude, Tess 4 years ago, 3 years ago was just in a completely different place than she is now. And so who knows, in 6 months from now, things could look super different in this realm for you also. Like,
oh yeah, I have literally no doubt about that. I don't know if you're speaking to me or like people listening.
I think just in general, like I know you know this, we talk about this a lot. You're very solid in who you are and your path. And obviously moments like this are going to happen where you waver a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that just redirects you.
It only makes you stronger, to be honest. Yeah.
Right. Sure. Where you're like, oh, what is
well,
that?
I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah, come on. We're not really going to go there, are we?
Yeah.
But I think like it's helpful to hear that, you know, if you're, cause I listened to, Darling Shine. It's Chloe Fisher and Elodie Pullen. And Chloe has been trying to get pregnant for so long, like this really rigorous IVF journey. And she actually conceived and now she's about to give birth. And something she shared on social media yesterday or today was like, people are writing in and saying, well, half the people are like, Chloe, why aren't you sharing more about your journey? Like, you know, we want to know everything. What is your nursery going to look like? And what's this? And what's that?
Okay.
What's your birth plan? Like people are just, get excited for you.
Yeah.
And then there's other people who are writing in saying, Chloe, it's really fucking triggering that you got pregnant. Like I'm still on my journey. Like, can you please not talk about that? Like that really hurts. And so she was saying, I get it. Like, I have been in that position where it really hurts. So I can imagine if someone is in like a long relationship or they're yearning for their partner. And then I'm over here talking about how fucking in love I am with Philip for the past, 6 months on the podcast. And now I'm getting engaged and now I'm getting married. They're like, ugh, but then there's other people who are like, I want to celebrate that for you. And I'm going to use that as motivation of like, you never know what could happen.
Well, okay. So just for reference, the camera shut off. So if it stopped mid-thought, then we're just trying to find our way back here.
Yeah.
But I'm not sure the point, like not saying this in a rude way, but the point you're trying to make with that of like people like comparing themselves to your journey.
Yeah. Or like people comparing themselves to other people in general, right? It's not that people have written in about me at all, but I'm just saying like, if you felt for a moment like, fuck, like Tess is getting married and I'm not, like, damn. And then there's people that I saw like for Chloe, like she went through so much to get to where she is today. And then people are like, Chloe, can you please not? Or, like she just feels like, oh, should I celebrate this or should I not? And then I think I was just saying that because everyone compares themselves in some way to each other. And yeah, I don't know. where I was like, what my real root was, other than I guess I just wanted to share that story.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I don't know.
I mean,
I think the story was so long that I ended up not like getting lost towards the objective.
Yeah. I mean, it is definitely interesting to me that okay, so most of us know that if people are comparing themselves to you in that way, or say, I don't know, people are messaging into Chloe and saying like, I can't believe you're sharing this, like what the fuck, and the other people that are happy for her. Now I don't even know what fucking point I'm making. Oh,
Doesn't matter.
it's more of a reflection on them and their journey. So like obviously, like we can even bring it back to, you still share because we're still trying to put that happiness out. Like I don't know, that's like the only message that I get from that is like, I have compassion for the people who are still going, like are still trying to find, I don't know, that partner to marry or whatever they're yearning for. But then I also feel like we should put that aside and like be happy for the people that are enjoying that, because like who's to say that you aren't going to be there one day too. And also having happiness for other people, like it doesn't take from your energy at all. I would argue that it actually builds your life energy.
I think the opposite is true. If you're like, it doesn't take from your energy to be happy for other people, yes, but it does take from your energy if you're not happy for other people.
Yeah, absolutely. Like it honestly just builds more, for lack of a better word, negative energy or like harmful energy.
Yeah, like distress in your body.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, so then that gets to our point of like, it makes sense that they're just stuck in that energetic field, and so they just want to like push that on other people too. Mm-hmm. Which that's just a whole conversation for another time. But we have compassion for those people as much as possible, because that's really sad.
It is. Okay, where we got totally sidetracked with that. Bring us back. What's next?
So what's next is that, I mean, okay. So this was something that happened to me the other day. This is just like a little like tidbit, I guess, of life. So I was visiting my family in the town that we grew up in, and I was doing a regular errands like with my dad. We went to the Ralph's, and I was walking through Ralph's, and it was fucking crazy because like I have done that a million times because we grew up there, but now we live in San Diego. Life is just different, and I truly feel different, like resurrection of Madison. And so I'm walking through Ralph's, and it was so crazy. Like I felt like I was in a different body, like walking through this Ralph's. Like it was a transcendental experience, I swear to God, because I was like, I am so different, but doing the same errand that I did maybe like 3 months ago, but I feel different. And so like shit looked different. It was crazy. Like I had like jumped into like another fucking world. It was wild. And I was like, does that ever happen to anyone? Is it because I'm sure it has.
Like you're appreciating things more for what they are now because you are not like stuck in a place anymore. Not physically stuck like in our hometown, but I'm just saying like your inner world has expanded so much that now you're able to see things and appreciate
like differently
them.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that definitely plays a big part in it. Of it. And I also think it's like very hard for me to articulate most things that I feel because my feelings are so strong that we've talked about this, that like human language, like English just doesn't describe it for me. Like I am based off of feeling so much. And that's why I feel like my comprehension when I read books is not very good, because it's a feeling within me that I get from reading. And then someone's like, well, what'd you just read on that page? And I'm like, I don't think I can actually put words to it. It just made me feel this. Like if you ask me like, how were you feeling when you read that page? I could say what I was feeling better than like the actual words.
Interesting.
Yeah, which is like really not helpful in many situations, because I feel like I just end up sounding like I'm fucking crazy. But I
mean, I understand when it's not helpful in certain situations when you're talking to certain people, but I think that there is something to look at further there and lean into.
Yeah, for sure. Definitely. There definitely is.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. It's some weird shit though. Different. It's just different. And like weird in a good way, you know? Mm-hmm. And then also I would say that we wanted to talk about how we're like obsessed with repeating songs.
Yeah, I think we've mentioned this a long time ago, and I'm wondering if anybody else, like maybe who are new listeners, can say that they do this too. We don't listen to just one song over and over and over again.
Sometimes, dude.
Well, okay, so like we have like a list of songs that we're obsessed with for a certain amount of time, and then we'll play one song on repeat. The length depends on the mood.
Right. Like sometimes I can play a song for like a whole, like if I, so yes, if I
If we
discover
drive
a
home
song,
for 2.5
yeah, if
hours.
I'm driving home for 2.5 hours, for example, if I'm in the car and I just like the reason we repeat the song is because we want to stay in the mood. So Tess and I were talking and I was like, it's literally feels like we're in a flow state when you repeat the song because it's like you hear it and like it gives you like a feeling where you're like, ooh, fuck, I like this feeling. Like it's a vibe. And I want to stay on that plane for as long as possible. So I just keep repeating that song. And those feelings get deeper like as the song goes on. And then all of a sudden something clicks and I'm like, all right, I can move on to the next song.
Totally.
Yeah.
And it's funny, we had the same experience, like the same time today. We were listening to one song probably for like an hour.
Yes.
And then I was like, okay, I'm done. And she's like, I was just
I was
say
seriously
that.
just about to say it, which just goes to show that we're like
Pretty
connected
connected.
in a crazy kind of way. But yeah.
But do you guys do that?
Yeah. Does anyone do that? Because I think like everyone I've talked to about that, like no one does that.
Yeah.
Maybe there was like one person, but I can't remember who
one
it was.
person saying, I can't remember either.
Yeah.
Okay, like another example of that. I was getting a little surgery done last week and I was awake for it. And I had my headphones in blasting, which pro tip, if you're going to the dentist, if you're getting a little surgery done that you have to be awake for, anything like that, bring headphones and blast your music because it will make you feel so much better because you don't have to hear what's going on. But thanks, Mom, for teaching me that back in the day. But I had like one song on repeat, not because the mood was good and like, oh yeah, I'm vibing and I like want to feel good. It was just, I needed something consistent to like, I needed to feel grounded. And that was my way of anchoring myself of like, this is the song I'm listening to, that I can rely on these, like this beat, I can rely on these lyrics to get me through it because I'm so out of control with what's going on that like this is tethering me.
Yes.
And it felt really great. So you can kind of use it in both of those.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like to keep the vibe high and also just
to like
hold
ground
on.
you. Yeah, exactly. It's like a feeling of safety. And also if I could go even deeper in this, it's like you know what is coming next within the song, so it's not going to like alter your mood in any way. And I don't know if this is I mean, this is obviously specific to us and I'm sure there are others, but it's like when you go into like a grocery store and they'll be playing a song and I'm like, my emotional state is disrupted by this song right now. Like that is oversensitive. That's not right.
Yeah, like if your senses can't withstand without disruption things like that happening, like what does that say about our nervous system?
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
Like, oh, if we can't be in a grocery store shopping and minding our own business without the song that's playing in the overhead speakers affecting us.
Maybe there's something else to address within that. Like maybe usually when that happens, all like for real, something's wrong within me.
Yes,
like I don't feel safe. It's like I'm already in a bad mood when I enter this grocery store and then I hear that song and it just like then I blame the song. I'm like, this fucking song put me in a bad mood, you know?
Okay, very true. But also maybe it's just because we're pretty affected by music. Like it's something that we rely
music
on
is a big
constantly.
deal. Yes.
To, help continue a mood, elevate a mood, calm a mood. So if something doesn't match that and you're just like, why is this playing right now? This is really annoying me.
Yes.
That's part of it.
And some books that I've been reading like through like talking about like ancient myths and traditions, like song in general is just like, and music is really pivotal to humans. And so that makes sense.
Why
like
we
on
feel
a
it so
biological
deeply.
level. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, we get hung up. And I just remember Lauren. Hi, Lauren. She was like, I just do not understand that. But I think, I think the song change can really mess me up. Like it's so abrupt, right? I was loving it. I wish a song could be 30 minutes long. I would love that.
If it's a good song, absolutely.
Yes,
and a lot of the best songs are like 2 minutes. And I'm just like, they knew what they were doing. And that's why we have to repeat it. Yeah. Like there's a reason there's a repeat function on Spotify.
Yo, that's kind of like how they say the key to success on like Instagram with these reels, because we're really good at it and we're getting a lot of success, is to make like really short videos that so the function loops. So then whatever they're reading in the comment or the caption below is keeping that video playing so your views go higher. Pro tip.
Okay.
We don't utilize that. As you can tell, we post
not
like
yet
3-minute long clips on Instagram, but I'm just saying that's how you can boost views is because it loops it. So then if artists are using that of like, it's a short song, so they're going to want more, they're going to have to loop it.
That makes, it completely makes sense.
Did I derail it again?
No.
with all due respect, I don't know why.
I mean, we did promise this type of episode, so I feel like we're delivering it, you know?
This really does feel like being on our couch with us, you know? Like this is kind of
Yeah,
how
and
it
this
goes.
is just natural conversation. Like you go off in a million different little tangents because that's just how our brain works. And I like that.
Me too. Some would say maybe a little, no, I can't say it. Not PC.
Oh,
What
yeah.
is there anything else that you'd
I
like
think
to
I'm going to
chat about?
stop with that because everything else I feel like just doesn't need a place today.
It does not. And I need to get off my left hip because
Yeah.
that's how we've been sitting. You guys, great job today.
We have to say that to ourselves. We did great. Yeah.
I
hope that everyone's having a good week. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
I think being an active listener is so important. Like, I think listening to podcasts is a really beneficial thing to do for your brain.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think it's like safe to say that most of the time when I listen to a podcast, I'm like weaving in and out of it. So it's just like for company a lot of times. Like you obviously like learn things, but like it's also just like hear friendly voices and just be entertained.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But thanks. We
Thank
love you. Have a great week.
Yay.
And talk soon.
Yeah, talk soon.